You're listening to
Wrestling to the Max.
Alert, clear wrong channels.
This is an exclusive.
How you like that?
And your hosts, Gary Vaughn, Sean Garmer, and Paul Vieser.
King of Sport. New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Hello and welcome to Wrestling Max Extra number 27, and we are the Every Wrestling Fan podcast, and of course we're brought to you by the W2M Network, where you can find all sorts of awesome podcasts. And we of course are also in partnership with Wrestlemania.com and Last Word on Sports.com. And Gary, tell everybody what we're doing.
Talking WWE Roadblock. That's right. The final stop before we get to WrestleMania 32. We are going to cover everything that entailed the show and kind of run down our opinions on each match and everything that really entailed in that show. Plus, we're going to talk some New Japan Cup, guys. Yeah, that's right. It's still going. Lots of cool stuff. And a really a winner that I personally am very thrilled about. But we'll get into that later on. But guys, I'm excited. We are going to get a chance to sit here and talk about this live event that was broadcast from Toronto, Canada, and that is Roadblock, of course. So let's go ahead and jump into this thing, feet first, okay? We really, were wondering what was going to happen in this main event. And we got a main event that was very interesting. So let's talk about Triple H and Dean Ambrose and what entailed. This was a match that I was kind of thrilled. To me, it lived up to the hype, and I'll be honest with you guys, maybe I was getting a little too enthused. Maybe I was a little tired. I was loving it, though. At the end, I was really enthralled. I really actually thought Dean Ambrose had a chance here. Of course, the story entailed exactly kind of how we predicted, though. Triple H was successful here. He did retain his WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And Paul, give me your thoughts on this, because I think this is something that we thought was going to happen, but I love the ending.
I certainly thought it was going to happen, and for 5 glorious seconds, I was right, until the referee said no. But this match was absolutely fantastic. Triple H sold for Dean like nobody's business. Really, this is just so good. Like, Triple H made Dean look legitimate. And Triple H, of course, I think Triple H just looked terrific here. This is totally, I think, more on his end than Dean's, and Dean was great here.
Yeah, Sean, what did you think? Because I agree with Paul on the whole selling point. Triple H did an awesome job. To me, it really at one point did feel like we got a new champion.
First of all, I gotta say that I am not a fan of the springing forward thing, because at least you guys don't have the extra hour like I do. So either way, it's also my fault that we're doing this show this late. So but anyway, this match was great. This was a fantastic way to do this, with this selling of Dean Ambrose, with so much selling for Dean Ambrose, like you guys said. I don't know. I have to wonder if Roman Reigns is going to get this much at WrestleMania. I really wonder if this is Triple H kind of making a statement about who he's supporting, and it not being Roman Reigns. Or maybe it's Triple H also making a statement about the fact that, hey, Vince, you shouldn't go out there in the Orlando Sentinel and say I'm a little bit long in the tooth. Look, I'm still out here rocking it. Wonderful about 20-minute match going on here. And freaking Dean, I think I felt his back go into that steel steps. Like, all I could think about was ouch. That was just painful. And of course the finish was that was terrible. His feet were nowhere near the ropes, so just
That's true. That's true.
you have to wonder if that's gonna. Hopefully that at least gets brought up on Raw, if nothing else, from this show. Because that would just be a crime if you don't at least talk about that.
I think you're right. I think it has to be kind of noted somewhere in there. I think Dean Ambrose definitely should be the one that does it, but someone has to make that obvious because it was too obvious on the network. And I'm sure the people sitting on that side were like, what in the world's going on here? That was nowhere near the ropes. But, overall, though, I mean, looking at that and looking at a few other things, I mean, to me, it kind of added the suspense, and it is what it is. I'm just excited to see what they do going forward, because right now, as it looks, even though Dean lost, I still think that he has a case to to point out on Raw, to really kind of say, hey, I deserve it.
Could they possibly do a fatal 4-way or something? I know I've heard it talked about, but the fact that it would leave WrestleMania without a marquee match, is also another point to bring up. But man, that would be so interesting. At least you could make a case that all three of them deserve title shots.
I don't think. I mean, Triple H and Roman Reigns is a story, and certainly they built something here with Dean that maybe you address later. But I mean, I just don't see them doing it. If they really wanted the 4-way or something like that, I guess Dean winning here would have made more sense if they wanted to go that direction. But I don't think that's gonna happen.
I'm just throwing it out there in case they want to protect themselves from the whole Roman Reigns fiasco or whatever. But
Well, you say that, and I agree. I think that we have heard that Seth Rollins is in the ring, and not saying he's going to be cleared and ready to go, but it doesn't mean he can't be on the outside and interfere somewhere at WrestleMania and do something that causes that whole fiasco not to go down as we kind of predict it could be or would be. So I don't know. We're still a chance of Roman Reigns turning heel, but that's really honestly the way it's got to work out right now, at least to save face, because what happened here in this main event, I mean, as great as Dean Ambrose looked, he's not in the picture. I kind of agree with Paul here. I wish that we could have had the 4-way, but I just don't think it's going to happen.
Well, I mean, he did get beat clean, even if you have the controversy. So
exactly. See, you bring up that point, and it's a good point. Even though you could still take Brock Lesnar away from Dean Ambrose, but even Bray Wyatt in that whole situation, which we'll get into later, but that still is not a marquee match. I think Dean Ambrose versus Brock is something that's going to sell tickets compared to Wyatt. So, but overall, I mean, what we're looking at here, and just this picture right now, we got Triple H moving on and doing his thing, and Reigns will be next, but I think for me personally, watching this match, I think it really did help the case for Ambrose. I hate to say it, because people say, well, Triple H is ready to conquer you. If you're getting a push and you're starting to look good, he's there to conquer you. Even though he did kind of conquer Dean Ambrose in a sense, I still feel like Dean Ambrose came out of this looking good. I think Dean Ambrose still has a strong outlook towards his future, despite losing this match. And honestly, Triple H gave it his all in letting him get over, if you ask me. So I think that was success. I don't know, do you agree with that, or do you think,
Yeah, I think the way Triple H sold is fairly important for making Dean at least look credible that he can do something to Brock at WrestleMania, because, I mean, a lot of people criticize how Dean does his offense. They think it looks weak, and Triple H certainly did not play to that, so...
Yeah, no, certainly he did not. And, I would say that this was almost a star-making performance for Dean. I mean, Triple H really went out there and made sure that Dean looked awesome. Triple H also got to show what makes him great, just knowing where to be, just at the right times, calming it down, taking the offense away. And Dean also got to be his crazy self, which hurt him in the end, and I love the whole thing, and I dare say it might have been the best match of Saturday.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I mean, there's another match on this card that I could say was pretty well, but this, you're right. I think this could be the best one. I think this is the one that really got more emotion out of you than any of these other matches, and I think that's definitely a big plus. But and the reason I wanted to bring up the Triple H thing and all is because you kept hearing during the week about how he's egocentric, how this is just another way to put somebody down, blah blah blah. And in a sense, honestly, I feel it was more of a help to Dean Ambrose than it was a negative thing. So I got to commend him for that, and I got to commend the whole situation. I think the story was told very well for what they needed to do, even though this is not going to really impact WrestleMania now. That's not a big deal. Most of this card doesn't really impact WrestleMania anyway. So
none of the card impacts WrestleMania, but it's just
exactly.
I mean, we can get into it, but plenty
Yeah.
of vitriol going on in our Facebook group about how this show was a total bait and switch. They promoted, and delivered nothing, according to them. So, but we can
I
get
can
into
ask you
that
guys
later.
that. We do, but let me ask you guys that that question, and it don't have to be into any detail. But this is the big question I have for you. Going into this, now, if I remember right, Thursday on our normal show, I don't think anybody out of all three of us really said that this show was going to matter unless the World Championship changed. That was the only match we all talked about and said that could change the view of WrestleMania or do anything. But we kind of gone into this roadblock saying it's just a live event. I mean, I don't know. I think we kind of expected that. That's the way I feel about it.
I mean, I thought that they would do the title change here, just because I think it would have worked better long-term storytelling-wise, but that's not the goal, it seems, right now. So.
Yeah, but the rest of the card, though, I mean, did you feel like the rest of this card really was going to change anything?
No, not really, but we certainly got some great wrestling out of the deal.
Yeah.
I would not change. Yeah, absolutely. I would not trade the tag titles that we got, or the tag title matches we got, for anything in the world. They were amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, people are going to complain. They want these title changes to happen. They want things to matter, quote unquote. But we got to remember, it's a house show. This is a house show. The champions win almost every single time, and the amount of title changes that have happened on house shows are very, very minimal. So, to me, I get it, and I get the Beast in the East special had the NXT title change and all that kind of stuff, but that was a whole different sort of circumstances. NXT was in a different state then than it is now. They have everything taped up till the TakeOver show. So they weren't going to do a NXT title change just to do it, and they would have to tape some rematch between Dash and Dawson and Enzo and Cass at some random show, and then stick it into NXT somehow. It's just, they're not going to do that. That's what kind of sucks when you have a month's worth of stuff already taped, but the story doesn't call for a title change to happen there. The story is what's going to happen with the guys that have been running through every other team in NXT, beating the buzzsaw that has been the Revival, and you got to look at it that way. You can't look at it for, oh my God, I wanted this show to matter in my thoughts, and if you're taking away stuff because you're not seeing this for what it is, then that's on you, man.
And I'll play devil's advocate because I can see where guys could sit there and say, well, it should matter. It's a show that you're asking me to invest my time to watch it. It should matter. I get that, and I really do understand that. And that's fine. But really, this is just another way for them to plug the network, another way for them to sell things like, let's be honest, Enzo and Kaz, and of course Dash and Dawson,
and
people that and Budios, people that don't usually get a chance to see certain things. This was the show to see it. You're someone who's never sat and watched NXT says, "Oh, I don't want to watch that. I just care about the main roster." Now they're kind of forced to watch these guys and say, "Wow, these guys are good. Maybe I should watch NXT. Maybe I should care about this." Wow, the New Day is really fun. I just, they added something else to their repertoire. So things like that, I think it's a selling point. And I think that's really what this was about. Get people in the network, hooked on the network. And this is probably something, honestly, to get people to purchase the network before they got to April to WrestleMania. I think that could be a plus. So, I don't know. I understand
that
both
was
sides.
where my question that I asked, before we started Raw on the regular episode, that I said, is Roadblock getting in the way of WrestleMania? And it seems like a few people on our group feel that way, that they should have never been building to this Roadblock show, that it should have been all about WrestleMania. And I can understand that point, but you're also expecting so much out of a house show. That you're not seeing what this was in the grand scheme of things. And like Paul said, for the rest of the show and that main event, you got a damn good show out of it.
Yeah, I agree. I really do. And we're going to talk about that. And before we do, though, I did not introduce anything before we jumped into this feed first, because I really wanted to talk about that main event, get that out there for us, everybody kind of hear about that. But, we are springing forward. If you're listening live, my God bless you. It's super late. The time change has definitely happened. We are now in the springtime. I hate it. It's not my favorite. I'm more of a fall guy. I like the dark getting here sooner than later. But anyway, if anyone is listening to this on demand, we do want to remember and remind you that Spreaker.com is where you can hear us live. If you say, man, I really wish I could have checked in on those guys Saturday night. I was awake at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Spreaker.com is where you're going to find our live feed for everyone out there who's looking for that. And, of course, if you're listening on demand, you knew where to find us, either the W2M Network, iTunes, everywhere else you can find a podcast, you can find our show. So, barring that, guys, let's go ahead and move on and talk about some other matches on this card. And let's go ahead and we'll kind of retrace our steps. We'll start at the beginning. I think it's something that we really want to talk about, and that's the New Day. The New Day started this show out. They come out doing their thing, being boisterous, cutting jokes. They bring out the Bootio box that they unveil. Just a lot of really classic New Day stuff, but still at the same time, I'm finding very entertaining. Just the promo alone and them getting this whole thing kicked off, I thought it was pretty well done. These guys are just darn entertaining.
I completely agree with you. The Bootio's reveal of the box was amazing. And I think the New Day worked a heck of a match with Sheamus and Barrett here. Really, really worked hard. Some of the spots they did were quite good. And they continue to make Big E look like a beast. Always managing to come out at the end to get the clean win for him. And I enjoyed the crap out of this match.
Yeah, this match was a good opener. You got 10 minutes of them doing, some of the New Day stuff, and New Day have been great for a while. We know this. They were great on Monday. They were their usual selves here. It's still hard for me I just can't bring myself to care about Sheamus or Barrett at all. I don't care how many times you say the lads. Trying to get over your own stuff is just dumb at this point, especially when Barrett's leaving. I love the promo at the beginning with them introducing the Bootio's that they sort of revealed on WWE.com before the show. And you kind of get what New Day is. They retain, and who knows if they're faces at this point. But that seems to be the indication, I guess. But we shall see.
Anyone, I think, on the roster, I don't care who it is, Kevin Owens, anybody who faces the League of Nations is the face. Because everyone hates the League of Nations that much. That's the way I feel.
Or people are just so indifferent to the League of Nations that they just cheer for anyone.
I just don't know how you don't hate them. Because every time I see League of Nations on a card, or I just hear the music, I see one of them, automatically want to reach for the nearest pillow. And I do not think anything of them.
That's not hating, Gary. That's indifference. If you're trying to reach for the nearest pillow.
I guess so. I guess I don't like it. It makes me kind of angry because I'm like I shouldn't feel this way. That's why I guess my anger comes out in that fashion. But yeah, you're probably right. Indifference is the better terminology for it. But overall, I mean, I think the whole face rumor that people said the New Day was turning face. This could be very well the launching pad for that. It wasn't a roundabout way. Because they really didn't go out of their way to be the heroes or anything. They didn't really have to, though. We may get more later on, but I think this is still a pretty good launch.
It's not going to matter, though, because you're going to have the multi-man tag. So, they're still going to be what they are at that point. I think it's more about once you get past WrestleMania, what they are.
Yeah, exactly. And I can't wait to see what they do at WrestleMania. These guys have got to have something big, I think, for WrestleMania.
Watch them, there's that whole... They're going to come riding in on unicorns. See if that happens.
Sean, that's awesome.
It's going to be magical.
Yeah, I think magical will be an understatement at that point.
Wow. I mean, screw the rolling rings like they had.
How the hell are they going to come riding in on... That's... What, are they going to hook it up to the freaking huge-ass screen and ride that way?
No.
I mean...
They're not going to fly. They're just going to ride in on horses. It's Texas, for God's sake. Right?
It's going to be horses wearing their unicorn horns, and it's just, it's going to be spectacular.
Just think of those horses with glitter all over them. It's going to be very special.
Yeah, that's My Little Pony right there on the.
Oh man.
Yeah, they can have like all the. They can have all 3 of them right out there. Xavier Woods will be riding out on Rainbow Dash right there.
What do they call those guys who are huge fans of My Little Pony?
The bronies.
The bronies. Could you imagine them riding down the ramp or wherever they're going to come from on those unicorns and the bronies just lining the ramp?
Oh,
Beautiful.
God.
I hope it happens. So we'll see. Greatest
Vince
WrestleMania
would be like,
entrance.
man, we just... and we went to the lowest common denominator, didn't we? Just right there.
Oh, man. So, all right. Well, enough about unicorns, guys. Let's go ahead and move on to the next match here. We had Chris Jericho come out and cut a promo, and really, he kind of touched on the AJ thing. In fact, they showed about a little bit of a SmackDown where he was burning the AJ Y2 AJ shirt. Basically, putting down AJ like he's supposed to, getting ready for WrestleMania. But he did kind of call out Jack Swagger in the promo and kind of say, Jack Swagger had beaten him in the past and different people, but it didn't matter. People shouldn't chant for them. He should chant for Y2J. Well, we do have Jack Swagger come out, and he is the match for Jericho. And really, nothing spectacular. It was okay. Decent match. It is what it is. It's a Jack Swagger type match. So there you go. But of course, Chris Jericho does win. He is victorious here, and he does move on, and will continue to do the whole AJ feud. Anything special out of this, Paul, that you kind of took away from it?
I was really surprised at how long this match went. It got 7 minutes, and they kind of made Swagger look decent, and people are still chanting, "We the people." The guy hasn't been on TV for like 3 months.
In Canada, no less.
How are you not using this guy more?
But you know what? People like to chant, and I noticed that they were booing him at times, but they were still chanting, "We the people." A little bit of mixed reaction, if you ask me.
Yeah.
True.
Go ahead.
It was true. Jericho looked great here. I think Swagger was fine here, too. There's nothing bad about this match. How are people still cheering for Jack Swagger? I don't get it.
I think this wasn't the greatest person to put out here because of the fact of it being in Canada, not the U.S., but they still chanted for him. I think if this was, somewhere else, this would have been even crazier. I think, I know the reason they didn't do it, but Sami Zayn would have been perfect for this. They probably didn't want to do it because they didn't want to have to do a no finish or something like that. But, this was fine. It's just, I don't know. Some parts of this kind of like dragged for me. It's hard to. I love Swagger. I think he doesn't get enough credit for how good he is. But it's just one of these where it's kind of like the whole Sami Zayn and Stardust when that match happens. it's just kind of like, all right, don't care, move on.
But, it kind of goes back to what you said, though. This is just another, live event.
I know,
house
but I'm
show.
just saying, like, I wouldn't be surprised if this happened on Raw, because they do
Mhm.
this kind of stuff all the time, where they have a bunch of matches that don't matter on that show. So
You're right. No, I totally agree, and I think Jack Swagger being the All-American guy, it's kind of funny to be, trying to make him the face here in a Canadian town. So, but overall, I mean, it was kind of funny to me talking about that and the crowd reaction during the promo, during the match at times. It's kind of funny because Chris Jericho did his best to play the heel, to be the guy saying all sorts of terrible things about Canada, shots at Toronto, blah blah blah. But still, you had the fans trying to chant for AJ a little bit, but they still wanted to chant for Jericho until he made some other comments. So I say that, and then of course you get Jack Swagger, who I think most Canadians are very indifferent to, don't really have any dog in the fight for him. It was very hard for them, I think, at times to go against Jericho. So it was kind of a weird reaction, if you ask me, despite the fact the match was decent. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the match. I just thought the crowd reaction was a little odd.
I do give them credit for playing along still and going against Jericho, and then Jericho also did a nice promo at the beginning making fun of them to make sure that they wanted to boo him. So good work by everyone.
Definitely. And I'm going to ask you this, Paul, and this is something that's interesting to me, and I've heard other people talk about it, and I don't know if I agree with other people's opinions about it, but AJ Styles, new to WB, new to this universe, he's still trying to make his name known with people who have no idea who he is because they never watched TNA, they've never watched Ring of Honor, nothing in the Indies, they just know WB. I think that, it's slow, but it's coming around. But do you think it's a kind of concern with places like this where Toronto, they were chanting AJ, it wasn't overwhelming. Do you think that's going to concern here at the beginning, or do you think it's going to take some time?
I mean, he wasn't there. I wouldn't worry about it. I'm pretty sure that crowd knew he wasn't there. And, I mean, Jericho was more on trying to get them to boo him about him hating on Toronto than it was about the AJ feud, So I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah. I mean, I just thought about that as I watched it because, there are other cities we've seen, Raw and things like that, even with AJ on the show, where it wasn't real loud for AJ, that's not a big deal to me. I just think it's kind of interesting, and I'm hoping people are getting to know him, and I'm hoping that's a situation that gets better. I sure hope that he's not in a place where people don't think a lot of him because the guy is so talented. So. Well, guys, let's move on to the next match, and this is actually an NXT match, and this is the tag match that we were promised, the Revival versus Enzo and Kaz. And, pretty fun start here because Enzo and Kaz come out. They got Carmella with them. They're doing their gig, sitting there and doing the whole spat and the whole, SWAFT and just all the fun stuff that they bring when they get on the mic to start before the match goes. But it just seemed to me it was kind of fun because, I think some of these people were really huge NXT fans and you didn't know if everybody was. I think it was a good reaction, though. And then, of course, we get the Revival coming out, Dash and Dawson. And the match itself was great. I had a blast watching this. I love the way Enzo and Kaz were hot here. They were going at it right away. Dash and Dawson playing a little bit of wrestling science there, slowing it down, getting things on their way. And, of course, we get the end where Dash and Dawson are able to sneak out a victory. That are able to do it despite the fact that we really felt like, man, it's going to happen. Titles are going to change. It's going to change, and it doesn't. For the right reasons, of course, like Sean mentioned earlier. So, but what did you think about this one, Sean? I mean, were you thrilled as much as I was?
Are we talking about the tag title match?
Yeah, the NXT tag.
Yeah, this was great. You definitely got everything that is about both these teams. I really, for one, it's awesome that the Toronto crowd really responded to Enzo and Cass and Carmella because sometimes they've been on these WWE shows, when they just appear at house shows and people are just like, who the hell are these people? I had a friend that went to one of the house shows, I think in Arkansas or something, and like no one there hardly reacted. But then they were reacting by the time the middle of the match was coming because they're just so good, you know. But it just shows you that the people that think that everybody watches NXT, there are a ton of people that only watch WWE and only watch WWE. But that being said, these two just work so well with each other because they're the total opposites, and you kind of get that Southern tag team. Oh, we're gonna work Enzo for a while, and then we're gonna bring Big Cass in for the hot tag, and you got some really nice double teams from both of them. Just wonderfully worked match. You know they were gonna win, but they gave you enough to make you feel like Enzo and Cass had their opportunities, and that's what you want.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really a kudos to all four guys here. They worked an amazing match. It was well paced. The crowd was into it, and everything was just firing on all cylinders. And for four guys who don't get a lot of this kind of exposure, they certainly knocked it out of the park. And I love the revival. They're amazing. The old school tag, the double teams, the frequent tags, just like the Four Horsemen style stuff that you used to always get back in the day. And Dawson hiding behind Carmella, and just the classic sleazy stuff. I'm really going to miss these guys as champions because I'm pretty sure American Alpha is going to take the belts from them at TakeOver.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, but I don't think they're going to go anywhere. At least I'm hoping not. I hope that they stick around and really do hang around that title picture because they deserve it. I mean, like you said, Paul. I mean, these guys are old school. I'm trying to think of who it was on the commentary team who said that they were like the Andersons. Yes, they are. Very much so, and it thrilled me. And I think that these guys are worth a lot. Their value is high right now. And they deserve every good response that they get. So, I mean, overall, just a great match. I mean, it had it, like Sean pointed out, it had everything. It really did. It had everything. I think this shone a really good light on NXT for people who hadn't watched NXT before. Maybe this will get them interested. It's definitely, one of those that I think is going to go down as definitely a solid match between these two. So. That is what it is. We'll have to move on and make sure we get on to Charlotte facing off against Natalya. Now, and this is kind of funny because they did a little promo before, and this was with Natalya backstage, and they were interviewing her about this, and she dedicated this match to her uncle Bret. That is Bret Hart, of course. And that was kind of interesting. And, of course, Charlotte and Flair show up, and they kind of, get back and forth. But Natalya baits them into getting a title shot against Charlotte. So by doing so, that makes this match mean even more. So now it is a Divas Championship match. And we go into this, and, I think this was pretty okay. It's probably not the best match of all time or anything, but it's a match that you kind of expect out of Natalya and Charlotte. I think they did a pretty good job here. But Charlotte is able to win, and we get a lot of near falls. We get chances to see both really put the submission moves in because they're both, really good at it. And, of course, at the end, though, Charlotte has her feet on the ropes and wins the match. So, hey, very Flair if you ask me, Paul.
I was actually expecting a lot out of this match, and the fact that it didn't sort of deliver kind of hurt a little bit. I'm so done with Ric Flair interfering with Charlotte matches. I'm over it. Everything else, though, I think it was fine. There's still a lot of good to be had here. It's just the finish, and I mean they're protecting Natty in Canada, obviously, but still meh.
Yeah.
I like this match, and I like the interference from Flair. It is what it is. He adds to her. He hasn't been totally interfering in every single match that she's been in. He picks certain matches to do it. This one was certainly one because Natty was, going 2 for 2 with her, and she had her opportunities to possibly. I mean, the sharpshooter right there in the middle of the ring. The crowd got hot for it, and that was certainly a spot where you thought, oh man, Natty. I knew she wasn't winning, but it's just where it was and the spot that it calls for, it makes sort of sense for Flair to get involved there. I never had a problem with it. This wasn't great. It was, good to very good, whatever you want to, put it on that scale. But still, I mean, look, it's not going to compare anything to their NXT title match, which, thank God, somebody actually mentioned it. I thought they were going to ignore it. I guess that's what makes the difference between being Raw and a house show. They can actually acknowledge things like that. But to me, it just shows how much Natty still deserves to be with all the other ladies in this women's division. And it's so sad that just because of whatever it is, her age, or Vince thinks she's not pretty, or whatever it is, Natty deserves to be with them. And she doesn't get enough credit for what she did in this match, and for helping out Charlotte here, because I think Charlotte's certainly improving, but there's still times where I'm like, oh, okay, it's kind of her reaction to the Natty getting out of the figure four, that was great. The tantrum she throws on the floor, I loved it.
I think her character development is much farther along than her wrestling development is. And to touch on your Natty point there, too, I really am surprised they don't want to use her more often, just because you want that veteran presence, I think, there to help some of these girls along, especially some of them who still need it, that maybe haven't had as much time in NXT as some of these other girls have.
Yeah, it's amazing to me. I don't understand it. But at least they're using her on TV more, and whether it's because, Total Divas is on right now and whatever. And, that's what's so weird. They keep complaining about the, Total Divas ratings going down. Have you noticed it's because they don't promote Total Divas that much on TV? That might be it. Because they used to overkill it with the Total Divas to the point where it was like, my God, this is taking away from the Raw I'm watching. To stop. And now when they go cold turkey, Total Divas ratings go down. So I think the people that think that wrestling fans don't watch it might be mistaken there. But that was a point that I went off on a tangent there, but I'm sorry.
No, it's the truth, though, honestly. You bring up a good point, and I think, people should understand that, hey, there are a lot of those fans that do check that show out, and just kind of follow, what goes on in that show and, of course, in the ring. So
this show's also getting really long in the tooth. It's just, other than, Nikki getting married, I mean, whenever Brian and Bree have babies, that's, all they've got left to do on that show.
I heard that they had Paige's mom on the show as well.
Yeah, they did have her on the show. To, act like she didn't know about her and the dude being engaged or whatever. And I haven't watched the last couple episodes yet, but that's what I've heard. It's not been that great.
Yeah, so I don't know anything about it, but I mean, it's interesting that they're doing a few things like that. So, but anyway, I mean, to kind of finish this whole thing out between Charlotte and Natalya, I agree with you guys. Natalya is way underutilized. I hope that they do find a way to use her more often. And Charlotte's growing, getting better. I'm kind of, as much as I love Ric Flair and all, I'm kind of with Paul in the fact that I think it's getting closer to time with Charlotte's on her own. I don't want to see Charlotte, just stay with Flair for another year. I really want her to do her struts and things alone. I don't need Flair on the outside. So anyway, that's just my little thing. Let's move on, though, guys. We are going to move on and talk about Brock Lesnar versus, Bray Wyatt and Luke Harper, which really honestly ends up being Luke Harper. So we'll just say Brock Lesnar versus Luke Harper. But this is interesting because we get the start of this, and Bray Wyatt comes out cutting a promo during his entrance music, and of course it cuts off when he gets in the ring. But as he gets out there, he basically gives Brock Lesnar props, talking about the people that Brock Lesnar has beaten in the past. But he said that really it's not going to happen tonight because it's going to be Bray Wyatt and Luke Harper facing off against Brock Lesnar, which I think, in a way, I was thrilled to hear because going into this match, I just was waiting for Bray Wyatt to be the guy buried more than anyone else on this whole entire card, just because he's Bray Wyatt and Brock Lesnar is Brock Lesnar. He doesn't usually lose. Going into this, though, now we know that it's going to be 2 guys on one. That was interesting to me. They never let us know that before. There was no other thought process. I don't remember hearing this earlier in the show. If you guys caught it, I missed it. I just didn't hear about that. This is my first knowledge of it. But Bray Wyatt stays on the outside, and Luke Harper takes on Brock Lesnar. And I'll be honest with you, I was very happy to see Luke Harper get as much offense as he got. I was thrilled with that. I thought that was a smart thing. I thought it was very intelligent that they kept Bray Wyatt on the outside, him not getting involved. I like that a ton. So I feel like even though Brock Lesnar did his thing and was able to finish off Luke Harper, gave him the F5 to win this thing, I still think that Luke Harper got his, and I think Brock Lesnar looks as strong as ever.
Yeah, this is a smart piece of business. Bray is the guy that needs protection out of everybody in the Wyatt family. You could feed the other guys as much as you want, in my opinion. So, I mean, and even Harper getting the moves he got here was surprising, for me at least. So, Brock continues to look strong, which is what you want. Bray's protected. Everything comes out the way it should here, which is a sigh of relief from what we were talking about on Thursday.
Yes.
Yeah, I much appreciated Heyman also kind of giving us the story of why this is happening for people that may have forgotten because they just totally, put this story somewhere else in everybody's panorama. But I think we got what we wanted, right? We kind of wanted the Lesnar-Harper match, and we got that even though a lot of it was Lesnar just throwing him around. And it's basically what Lesnar does. My thought was it now you're going to protect Bray Wyatt? Okay. Just a little bit too late on that. Still doesn't make me care about Bray Wyatt, but it is what it is. I'm glad that they're, I guess, for this house show, realizing that Bray Wyatt doesn't need to be getting whacked by Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I was just thrilled that, Wyatt was protected at all. Because they really haven't done that in the past. Even though it doesn't really matter, it doesn't make people think anything better of Bray Wyatt. At least he's not the guy laying down at the end of the day. But it does make me wonder, and am I jumping the gun on this, but I started to wonder myself, do you think this is going to have any impact on the Wyatt family? Because looking at this, Luke Harper takes on the Beast by himself. Wyatt really never tries to ever come and be an assistant. Do you think that starts a little crack between this whole family, or do you think this is just a servant being a servant?
More the second one, because I don't see a reason to break up the family right now.
I hope not.
I mean, Harper's the only one I think that really is going to be able to do something just because he's great in ring-wise, but I don't know what they're going to do with him because they'd have to really change sort of his look or whatever, because if he stays the same, he's always going to be thought of as the Wyatt family guy. So, I don't know. That's going to be a weird thing.
It is. It was just a thought. It's all. I just had to throw that out there because that was my thought process at the end of this match. But I once again, it doesn't matter. Luke Harper's great. He's a tremendous guy in the ring, and he's a tremendous, just everything. I just love Luke Harper. So, moving on, though, guys, we got the next match on here: Sami Zayn versus Stardust, and this was one that was kind of interesting because, I did not know about this match happening. If it was announced, I did not see any news on it.
No,
I was very happy to see. Yes, I'm glad, because I was like, man, I did not know this. But Sami Zayn coming out was a great surprise. I was happy to see him on this. Even though it's Stardust, Stardust is fine for what he is, but, going into this, I kind of knew what was going to kind of happen here. I think these guys put on a decent match here. I wasn't just overly thrilled, but I think they did pretty well. Stardust got a lot more offense than I expected against Sami Zayn, to be honest with you. I kind of thought this was going to be a point for them to really, get hyped up about Sami Zayn and maybe Sami Zayn get a majority of the offense. But it didn't work out that way. But it was what it was. What did you think about it?
Oh, excuse me. I was with you. It was exactly what you thought it was going to be. Stardust, I think, gets his shots here or there. Sami Zayn looks the best, or they try to make Sami Zayn look the best. I think this was long. for what it needed to be. But it certainly wasn't anything wrong with it technically, but the crowd couldn't have cared. And that's a problem when you have Sami Zayn, who's from the area, or not the area, but from the country, I should say.
Yeah,
Sean.
I mean, I kind of already said in that piece on this earlier. I mean, this was good for what it was. I don't know. I mean, at least we found out Stardust has a moveset, right? I mean, that's kind of all that I got out of this.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, thinking back of it, this may be the most offense I've seen Stardust have in a while. But, that I guess it's good because, he's a main roster guy and Sami Zayn's new to the main roster. So you can have, I guess, Sami Zayn just, completely squash Stardust or anything. But at the same point, I still feel like they should have given Sami Zayn more of the offense, a better showing here. Not bad, just wish he got a better showing. So solid stuff, though. Now moving on, though, let's get on to this next match. Actually, that's all. I was actually moving to the main event. We've already talked main event. So overall,
wait, before we get to the rating thing, I've seen a lot of people just flipping through on Twitter and Facebook here while we've been doing this. People saying that Ambrose looked like a loser. The way he was booked in the match, and that, you can't ever believe in the guy because he never wins and whatever. But again, I think it's people just if this wasn't taped, would it have mattered? We wouldn't have known about him losing to Triple H or whatever. But this was the only, to play devil's advocate, this was also the only match that was really hyped for this special. So I guess you could say it matters more than the other ones. What is y'all's I didn't even think about that when I saw this. I know Dean loses quite as much as he wins and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, what did you guys think about that?
Did these guys watch the same match we did? You can't say that Triple H damn near killed himself trying to sell for the guy.
Their thought is like he lost because he took too many risks, so he looks like he's just the lunatic guy, and that's all he's ever gonna be, and whatever. And I don't know.
See, I don't know. I don't know if I buy into that per se, because this guy has not been in WWE for 10 years. Hey, tell me that when we get closer to that 10 year. This guy has been here for a little while, but he was part of the Shield. Then he broke away, so he's not completely new, but he's still in his young career as a singles competitor. And he's building his story, and the story is that he is a lunatic, and that he is nuts, and he's going to do anything. It'd be like saying, well, Mick Foley didn't win major titles on a regular basis, and so he was kind of a loser because he was always having to get into hardcore matches, and he couldn't always be the victor. So really, Mick Foley is just kind of a loser, kind of a fat slob that has to bleed just to get people to like him. I wouldn't believe that. I don't believe that. And I don't think the same about Dean Ambrose. I think Dean Ambrose is fine. He can't win all the time. That's not the direction of the company right now. When it's his time, trust me, he's going to be a winner all the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you're also complaining about something that, while Vince is there, is not going to change. And we complain about it too, but we know that it's kind of one of those where we're just saying it because it's annoying. But the whole 50-50 thing is the way Vince does things. We don't necessarily agree with it. Most people do not either, but it is what it is. I mean, we've seen Ambrose lose matches he shouldn't lose. We've seen him beat guys when we thought he wouldn't win, and they did, at least, even though it wound up being clean, the win for Triple H. They did add a little bit of controversy in there, which can be played out on Raw. We'll see if it has any kind of ramifications or not, or if they just move him on to Brock and act like it never happened. It is whatever it is they decide. I think they don't. There's no way they don't do that if they don't have the thought process of making it appear in some way or another. But I just don't see where if it was something where like Triple H was just doing everything and Ambrose never got anything in there. He got a whole lot more than hope spots, you know. There was a couple of times where you go, oh crap, they might really be doing this with Ambrose, you know. And I don't see what they're complaining about here.
I get it, right? I know they're thinking, that dive, the elbow dive to the table should have never happened. And I understand, but, it goes back to his character, who he is. And that's the way it just had to work out. I mean, let's play common sense for a minute. There's young NFL players out there who make mistakes. In their second or third year, they don't tackle a guy they usually tackle. They take the wrong angle. Well, you can't say that guy's a loser for the rest of his career. You have to understand it's experience, it's learning. You don't become Darren Woodson overnight. You have to understand the game, learn the game, and that's, to me, it's wrestling. I know it. Let's be honest. It's all put into play what's going to happen. But for me, as a fan, just watching it as a fan, I look at, Dean Ambrose made that mistake. He's going to learn from that. Next title match, he's not going to do things like that. And I think that kind of stuff kind of builds to his story. That's just me personally, though. That's the way I look at it. I don't think anybody else who had opinions was wrong. Their opinions is just as valid as anyone else's, but that's just the way I look at it. So, it is what. And by the way, how many times has Dean Ambrose been Intercontinental Champion? Is it twice?
Yeah,
I think 2 or 3 times.
No, that's
twice.
Once, and he would been
U.S.
champion.
U.S. champion. Okay, I knew he had won at least 2 titles or something. To me, that shows he's not a loser. He's not being built as a loser. He's won titles before. This is a role first.
Many people have won titles before.
Well, I agree, but to me, they're not billing him as a guy that's always a loser. He's not always the second choice. Right now, we all know where it's going. Roman Reigns in the story.
I'm telling you, I bet that Roman Reigns doesn't get this much offense on Triple H at WrestleMania. Would not be surprised. I'm not saying Triple H is going to sandbag him or anything, but I'm saying that match, I don't think it's going to be as good as this Ambrose match we just saw.
Completely agree with that statement.
Yeah, and so we'll have to find out where it goes from there. And WrestleMania is the next big show that we're going to be covering later on. 3 weeks from now. It's amazing. 3 weeks from now, we'll be talking WrestleMania. But we're going to rate this show before we go into that far. Let's go ahead and rate this thing, Paul. What did you give it?
Solid 7. There's really only one match I might take off the card or just shorten it. Other than that, everything else I thought was solid.
Sean?
I'm going to go 7.5 on this one. You got 2 great matches on a house show. You've got, a Natty and Charlotte match that, although it wasn't, I think the greatness that many of us expected, it was still pretty good. You got a good tag team, a WWE tag team title match too. I mean, there was, other than the two matches that were unannounced were really the 2 that were kind of just there because you weren't expecting them, and they were matchups that you didn't care about. But I think everything else, the Brock thing is what it is. It's you either like that or you don't. But everything that was announced delivered on, or perhaps even over delivered on that. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe some people go higher than the 7.5 I'm giving it, because when you have 2 great matches on a show, that already puts it up there, and everything around it was not, there was nothing bad. So that's a lot to say, because they could have just had some short matches and be done here.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm giving it a 7 as well. I know Sean gave it a little bit higher, and I definitely I could see where that is, because I think most of this show was high effort. I think these matches were solid. The tag team matches were great. I love both of them to death. The main event here, the World Championship, was great as well. It was to me personally, you could get a little bit emotional about it. You kind of jump up, stand up in your chair, something like that. I mean, honestly, when Dean Ambrose looked like he had won, I actually stood up. I thought, it's finally happening. And it did, but that's what it is. But that makes me happy that I had some emotional investment. That's solid business for me. But it is what it is. Some of this other stuff wasn't so great. That's why I think a 7 is well.
Get out of here, that is sort of the consensus. You guys and a couple of others many others rated a 7. We have a few 8s, a 6, and then we have the contingent that thought it was terrible. The 3s and 4s in there as well, so that we're upset by the fact that it did not deliver this magnanimous, wonderful thing, I guess. I mean, I just don't know what people are expecting it out of a house show. I mean, just because AJ and Kevin Owens had a 30-minute Iron Man match on the other show, which that's because they had way less talent on that show, doesn't mean that, oh my God, this show was bad. And it was not. Just, if you're looking at it from the work perspective, I bet this show winds up being better than the show in Atlantic City. If you're looking at it from any other way but the work perspective, you're not understanding this is a house show. If you're looking at this from oh my God, this is a pay-per-view, I don't know. Maybe they did hype it up as a pay-per-view, but still, don't we look at these pay-per-views the same way? A lot of these pay-per-views, we look at them and they go, oh my God, going in, this is stupid, this is terrible, this build has been horrible, this WrestleMania build has been, whatever, blasé. And then you get to the show and you're like, oh wow, this was better than we ever thought it was going to be,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know, I know we kind of talked about it already, but you guys agree with me, or you're thinking on their end?
I mean, we've seen these specials before. We know roughly what they're about, and I think really outside of Beast in the East, you haven't really had one that's been game-changing. And Beast in the East, I think, was only meant to be game-changing because it was the first one. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just go back to that word, house show. That's enough said for me.
Like, this is way better than the MSG or the Elimination Chamber one, even, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Elimination Chamber one had, the one Elimination Chamber match that was pretty good, and then I don't really remember anything else on that show. So other than, Kalisto, poor guy, trying to do something that there was no way he was going to do on that top of that chamber. But if he was trying to flip over that thing, that was never happening. But yeah, whatever. This is one of those things where it's going to be a divisive thing, I guess.
And that's okay. Like I said before, I think it's great. I want to hear those opinions. I want to know. I want to understand.
I could read you the long list. Was seriously, this thread got intense here with people.
Yeah,
complaining about
I bet. But we don't want to be on here for 2 hours.
I wish Fonty was awake right now. He could tell us all about it, but
Yeah, but, we'll hear from Fonty, and maybe we'll get a clip or something of him talking about what he thought. That'd be awesome. Maybe for next Thursday's show, maybe we can have some Fonty audio. But anyway, guys, well, once again, we got through this show, and, we all kind of liked it. There were some people that hated it, but that's okay. Let's move on, though. We've got some other things to do here. We got to talk some New Japan Cup, guys, and we had a big one here, and we had a winner. So we're going to get into that and all next.
King of Sport. New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Well, this thing started as most of these shows have been starting for a while. David Finlay Jr. against Jay White, and I thought this kind of played out the way that most of these have been playing out, at least during this losing streak for Finlay, which he loses here again. He just got over-aggressive, and the Lion Tamer comes into play again, and Finlay loses.
Solid match. I would say it's very similar to the one they had on the previous night of the New Japan Cup. So not a whole ton to talk about here. It's still another solid entry in their series, though.
Yeah. The big thing for me is, do you guys think that Finley, is just having to go through this right now? Are they building him, letting him learn? Is that the process here in Japan before he does start getting some of those victories?
I think it's just part of the story that they're trying to tell to keep you somewhat interested in seeing these guys go round and round and round and round. Okay. I think they're more invested in Jay White. I think just because I think Jay's going to play more to their junior heavyweight division right now, and there's that. But I don't know if David's going to stick around for very long either.
Yeah, he
Fair
did
enough.
say he was leaving. Don't know what that is, whether he's just kind of going on a vacation, or if he is leaving, or he's going to go on his excursion, or whatever, We'll have to see. I mean, he's the one that's been there the least out of all of them, so that'd be kind of weird if he's going to excursion for Jay White, but we'll have to see what's going on, because again, he does have the connections with over here in America due to his dad and all that, so perhaps people are looking at him. My written review for this will probably be out in the morning whenever you people are listening to this, or it's already out if you listen to it later. So I watched it live at 3 o'clock in the morning and then went straight to bed when it's over. So it's like, I'll write this later. But yeah, did you watch any of this at all, Gary? Or
I did not have a chance. I actually have not. I was just kind of asking a few questions as we go along.
But so we move along here to Liger, Jushin Thunder Liger, and Juice Robinson taking on Tiger Mask and Captain New Japan. Of course, as Paul noted, still the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion. And we would get a little bit more with these two with that title. So I swear, it's like the only title these two can go for whenever one of them has it. It's hilarious. But this felt like a showcase match for Juice Robinson. He was in there with Captain New Japan at the end, and he gets the win for his team.
Yeah, for the brief little bits that I saw this one, because I had to skip around to make sure I could get both shows in, it did look like Juice was getting the more limelight here, and they let sort of Tiger Mask and Liger have some more headbutting to seem like they're building up to another new NWA Junior title match, which I don't know if anybody in the world cares about, so there's that. But them letting him have Juice have some time to run around and show off, who I think is getting better from what I've seen. Obviously, I didn't get to see them here, but I see improvement every time I watch them.
They had a nice little near fall with Captain New Japan, too, doing a roll-up on him. And he wins with a seated Cobra Clutch. Weird move for Juice, but nice that he can win in different ways, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you want to add here, Gary?
No, it just sounds like a full cup of juice if you ask me.
Well played.
So, we have Tomohiro Ishii and Yoshihashi against Evil and Bushi, and this was pretty good. I enjoyed it. You had Yoshi getting beat up, and Evil and Bushi really have kind of grown as a tag team. The Codebreaker German suplex thing that they do was pretty nice. And then it kind of turned into an Evil and Ishii match for a little while. Them doing their thing, which, I could watch that for days. I just love the fact that these guys are much smarter than the Bullet Club. They actually try to take out the referee so he doesn't see them doing stuff. So that, the referee doesn't look stupid. And then, you get the mist, and you get Evil basically putting that always title right in Ishii's face and giving him the throat slash. He wants a title shot. So, man.
There's a fun story to be told there, too, because Watanabe had several ROH World Television title shots that he couldn't obviously make good on, and there's some story to tell there. I really like Evil and Ishii just work really well together. Evil sells like nobody's business for Ishii's offense, and it's really, really awesome. The great part about Evil, though, is that he just keeps coming back for more, even though he's selling it like it's paining him greatly. So I love that. And then I also was going to touch on Evil and Bushi really gelling as a tag team, but Sean touched on that already, so I won't rehash there.
I do love the his. Now it's basically his thing. I'm going to put your head in a chair and smash you into the pole.
Yeah. And New Japan somehow found a live crowd that gives a shit about Yoshihashi. Like that's probably the real takeaway here.
Yeah, I mean, but Yoshihashi, you know what? He's had a good year, I think. Like literally, this has got to be like the best year he's had in a while. Like just between this and the Naito match, and I mean, I think the dude's certainly showing that maybe you should get. I think Nakamura's on record saying, "Hey, you need to give Yoshihashi a shot." So maybe they're sort of doing that in a way.
I mean, why not at this point? But I was still flabbergasted that there's a live audience who cared about him.
Oh man,
This crowd was really good though.
Yeah, they were great for everything.
This almost felt like, is it an outside arena? It almost felt like it was at times.
It felt like an arena that looked really similar to the Osaka Hall, Prefecture Hall that they started using Bodymaker Coliseum, even though it's not called that anymore. It's really open though, which I like.
That might be why it kind of sounds like a outside arena. Seriously, the name of this arena is the Shin Amori Prefectural Sports Park Maeda Sub Arena.
wow.
God bless you, Japan. God bless you.
I hope it's shorter in Japanese.
It's probably
They probably
is.
have a nickname for it.
Yeah, you're right. They probably do. But I just wanted to throw one thing. I think it's awesome. You're saying that Evil kind of shows interest in that ROH TV title. That is great. Yeah, to me, it's good news for ROH.
Yeah, they're letting them defend the title on their shows, so it only helps them look better. I mean, something they never did with Mascara Dorada when he was there doing with the CML welterweight. So that's good to see him doing that. So we move on to something that's very quick, but this has probably got to be the best 2-minute match I've seen in a long time. Toru Yano and Tetsuya Naito. Naito selling that first roll-up like, holy crap, what the hell's going on here? Just flabbergasted. And then it just keeps going.
Yeah, I mean, Yano unloads all of his tricks. Naito kicks out everyone. Ends up out Yanoing with a little low blow that the referee doesn't see into the roll up, and there you go. That's pretty much the match.
I love the Naito taking the referee with him on that last one to make sure that he couldn't count. Great stuff.
Oh, that's awesome. See, my boy's working hard. Just, sitting back, letting the other guy do all the work, and then one punch to the groin, and he's winning.
He's got a quality main event match left ahead of him still, too.
Ooh.
Yes. So we get to Hiroki Goto and Michael Elgin for the other New Japan Cup semifinal. And, this was what you would expect from these two. It wasn't as great as their G1 match, but this was certainly more about Elgin kind of just dominating and trying to get this one done. And Goto's like, nope, no sir, we're not doing this. And he wins again with a sort of just out of nowhere kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. The Goto Nishiki roll-up is the term for the move that he's using to get the win here. Elgin is super over. This is another crowd that was way into everything he did, and he showed off the power moves quite frequently, which I enjoyed. And Goto, I think, is really working well in this story. Even if it's not going the way I would have liked him to do, where they just let him hit the depths of depression. But this is his event, so him making it to the final still works, I think, in a way, even though it's not what I would have done. And I mean, man, he's going to pretty much every length he can just to get the win. And Elgin still almost kicks out. Like, he kicks out just after 3, which I thought was a great little bit of storytelling too. So,
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Paul. I really thought, it'd been better for Elegant to go on. I just, he's more, involved now in New Japan, especially, getting that deal done with those guys. I just kind of expected them to kind of put him, up a little bit, but, Goto's a talent, so you can't deny him. I get that too. I'm with you though. I think it'd been really awesome to see Goto go so far to the depths that maybe it changes a few things with him. Maybe he becomes a lunatic fringe himself. So I just think that, like you said, a better storyline. But it is what it is. I mean, I think both these guys deserve it, so I really don't hate it. I just wish Elegant was kind of put up there a little further.
Oh man, I mean, just like I agree with you guys that it would have been cool to see him go to the depths or whatever, but I think for what they did here in this whole story of this show, the whole thing is he's been kind of winning just he doesn't care how he wins. He just wants to win,
Right.
And so that, to me, that also tells you something. So I'm all for that. What we'll see later on is apparently, Goto maybe turning a new leaf in this entire thing. But we move on to a match that, on paper you think, okay, this doesn't mean anything. It's one of these tag matches, Shibata and Taguchi somehow working together without much trouble, mainly because Satoshi Kojima and Hiroshi Tenzan make sure that Shibata can never get in the match. They just keep knocking him off the apron. And Kojima makes it pretty evident, even at the beginning, that this ain't just no tag match for him. He was looking around for something. Taguchi, man, him doing the super duper whatever wind up to the Mongolian chop, just I almost died laughing. Just man, this dude is totally accepted where he is, and he's still knocking off Nakamura. Like he does not care. But Kojima just laid him out. I mean, talk about taking somebody's head off.
I am all about Kojima and Shibata. That match is going to be terrific. And this still, I think, does work for Tenkoji too, to keep him in that tag title hunt for the future. But man, Kojima and Shibata is that's going to be all kinds of awesome.
Oh yeah. I mean, they told a nice story here, and then Kojima challenges Shibata, and Shibata's like, nope, we're not doing that. And then Kojima's like, oh, okay, well, lariat to you too. Now you will take my challenge, you asshole. He basically told him, I'm done with the tag matches. We're doing this. And then he just lays the title on top of him, just like, man, Kojima, doesn't matter how old he gets, he's still a badass.
That lariat, man. Fear it.
Yes. Fear that lariat. Gary, probably one of the things that would have been awesome for you to see from the show. Something that I didn't think was going to be, it wasn't necessarily awesome, but it certainly tells you something about how great Okada is when you get into this Yuji Nagata and Nakanishi against Okada and Sakuraba match here after this. Sakuraba looked more motivated than I've seen him in years. I mean, the dude did a plancha to the outside. I mean, when does he ever do that?
Never.
And,
I mean, I was surprised he didn't fall apart after landing, to be honest with you. But, I mean, really, this match is just sort of to showcase Okada. Look, he's here. Here's him doing all of his moves. Hooray. And, by the way, Nakanishi is still a tree, just to let you know.
I mean, but, Nakanishi did a heck of a lot more than I ever thought he would do either. It just kind of went a little while with Nakanishi there at the end. But, Okada took care of him, and it is what it is. But I laughed at Sakuraba and Nakanishi trying to wrestle each other. It's like, what is happening here? Am I watching this match seriously?
You know what? My shipping bill just went up. I think I'm already having to find a way to send Naoto chicken. Now I've got to send Nakanishi some Christmas ornaments to put on himself. Just hang these on you, sir. You're a tree.
God.
10 out of 10, Gary.
Ew.
Never change.
See, Gary didn't watch the show. He could still give you great analysis. So, we go into Hiroshi Tanahashi and your tag team champions Makabe and Hanma against the Bullet Club V team. And Tama, just like Paul said, Tama Tonga pinning Hanma. And then we get the reveal that, giving credit to Mr. Damon McDonald, but Mr. Camacho, his brother, is his partner. And it is happening at Invasion Attack. They also beat up everybody at the end after the match, too. Tanahashi eating a grenade. I mean, this match was just, it was what it was. But you get a nice thing at the end.
Yeah, I mean, no bicycle here.
Oh man, Camacho without a bicycle is not winning.
I'll say that Larry, I think, nailed it. I think this is really sort of a last chance for Camacho to sort of show us what he can do. He wasn't anything terrific in WWE. He was bad in TNA. Hopefully he can find his way here in New Japan. And, I mean, he's paired up with his brother Tama, who's just a terrific athlete, so he's going to have to try to step his game up, and we'll see what that brings.
I will say he never really even got a shot in TNA. That was just, he was just there.
The stuff we saw was not terrific.
I will say,
can't
Gary,
really blame
like, don't you remember in those really early days of NXT, because we covered it, like, from the beginning of Full Sail. I remember Camacho starting to kind of turn the corner a little bit. And he was talking more, and he was involved in things a little bit more, and then he left.
Yeah, I remember that very well, and that's what keeps making me think that this could work, because I remember that guy having upside. I remember him performing pretty well at times, and sure, I mean, WB doesn't always do well for everybody, so I got that. The TNA thing, I didn't get it all. I didn't know whose fault it was. I really didn't. I was thinking it's theirs or his or something.
Crappy Eli Drake too, so you know.
Yeah,
I mean that is fair.
Yeah, I mean it is what it is, but at the same time, you would hope that the guy could try to find a way to get over. He didn't. So here we are, and I think from what I do remember, Sean, from those early days of NXT, that the guy has some potential. Let's just hope that he is motivated now, and that could work out for him.
Well, then you get to your main event, your New Japan Cup 2016 final with Naito. Bushi does come out with him at the beginning. Evil comes out later during the match, and against Goto, of course. Now, Naito picks up the win with a Destino, but these two just went out there and gave each other everything and more of it. You basically got everything but the Stardust Press from Naito, and Goto pulled out everything and just... And Naito even kicked out of the Shouting Guy. Just really tells you the story of Goto winning at all costs, perhaps going back to the well, and it failing him.
Mm-hmm. And that, I thought, was a particularly well done piece of business there. These guys delivered you one heck of a main event, and for somebody not named, Nakamura or Tanahashi or Okada filling this spot, I think these guys did an incredible job showing you what else New Japan has to offer outside of the main guys that you came to expect to deliver all the time. And I, the post-match stuff I'm sure we're about to get into, but certainly the future is looking very interesting for New Japan.
Yes, certainly. I know, Gary, you're excited about your boy winning. And
Yes.
He does come out and say that he is going to challenge Okada, but on his time. And then they beat up Goto, and Okada comes out to make the save, and Goto shakes his hand. So Goto is in chaos after all this time of turning his back and whatever. Gonna be interesting to see if Shibata has anything to say about that, because he was watching very intently the last time that Okada was, offering him this. And, I guess Goto appreciated the whole Okada making the save. We'll have to see. Naito makes fun of Goto, saying, hey, smart, just go be Okada's lackey. And then Okada, because he doesn't want a guy basically having a Money in the Bank shot of, you can cash in on me whenever you want, he basically tells Naito that I really want you to do it at Invasion Attack. And Naito's like, well, since you really seem to want me to have the title early, I guess since it's what you want, we'll just do it there. He did say later that he was kind of, he was like, well, I'm sorry that I broke my promise to all you people in Osaka that wanted to see me go against Okada and win. But, yeah, so then Naito stands tall at the end, and you got your main event set for Invasion Attack, and now you've got about 5 matches set for Invasion Attack.
Oh, man.
It's looking good. Goto and Chaos is interesting because you could, if this leads to tension in there, then that's even better, because then if you break up Chaos, which is a huge group now, you suddenly have more match pairings you can go through. Seeing what this does for Goto, I think as a character, is going to be more interesting, because he's always been the lone guy. I can get it done on my own, and couldn't break through that glass ceiling. And with him wanting to be the champion and being in Chaos, what's that going to do? So all that is going to be something to pay attention to. Naito winning the cup and doing it on his terms is perfect. And gosh, I really, really hope he wins the belt. I think that would be really great for New Japan. I think it'd be great for putting the Los Ingobernables over, and maybe leading to more Chaos problems. So.
Exactly, Paul. And you just said that, what are they going to do with Goto wanting the championship and being in Chaos, and Okada's in Chaos? Here you go. Naito gets the belt, an Invasion Attack, and, all the world is great, because now that feud, heats up now even more. So I don't know if they're going to do that. I would only hope. I mean, to me, it's the smartest decision. New Japan needs to move in a direction that people are going to flock to him and really, get excited about. And Okada's great, love Okada, but Naito is my boy. I think he's going to draw tons and tons of new looks and different people to come and experience who he is. So I like that decision if they were ever to make that. But, later down the line, I think, even when the picture's not on the title with Naito, I still think this guy's got a lot of stuff he can do. I mean, he can parallel a lot of the other champions we've seen in the past. But the one thing I would love to see him do is one day, kind of like take a page out of Steve Austin's book, maybe challenge Goto to a match of Popeye's chicken, something like that,
God, Gary is just on this thing with this shit.
I love the fried chicken reference. I'm sorry. It just thrills me, because it's something I know about Naito. So anyway.
It makes you feel, close to him. That's fine.
It does. It's that connection we have now. Before there was a language barrier and we didn't understand. Now we know the same language. It's beautiful.
Yep. Now we
Very,
can all
very
be
touching.
tranquilo about fried chicken, but
The universal language of fried chicken.
Yes. Soul food, baby.
Man, Invasion Attack looks awesome now. Now you've got Kushida and Will Ospreay for the junior title. You got Kojima and Shibata. You got Tonga and Camacho and Makabe and Hama. You got Evil and Ishii and Okada and Naito. Jeez. I mean, I don't know if they've really had this many things set after one show like this before. I mean, hey, WWE, you might want to learn something about setting your matches a month apart. But I mean, we're about a month away from this Invasion Attack show, and they've got half their cards set already. I mean, that's pretty amazing. And you still got to figure out if Omega's going to defend the Intercontinental title or not. So, I mean, that's, 6 of your matches. I'm sure the never open weight 6-man. Well, yeah, they got to figure out whether it's going to be that or the IC title, I guess, since has both of them. And, so could be a freaking amazing card when we get to that April 10th show. But I agree with you, Paul. I mean, this is a company that you feel excited about things now, and it feels sort of fresh instead of just the same ho-hum, whatever, because they could have done the safe things on the show with a lot of these matches, and they didn't do them. So.
Yeah, it certainly feels like they're moving in a very different direction, and obviously they have to in light of what happened to them with Nakamura and Gallows and Anderson and those guys leaving, and they certainly feel like they're coming out of that, looking towards the other side of the tunnel, and with a whole new vision, and I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thrilled about this as well because, I mean, all this talent that we know that they have is going to be pushed to the forefront. We're going to have just a new look New Japan in a way because, the same old players are not all there. So now, it's going to get different. Naito is definitely a guy that you can say that's the picture of what's going to be now. It's not just, Goto facing off against Nakamura or, just the same old matches aren't going to happen now. This is nice. It's great. And we're getting new talent. And I think it's a very positive thing.
Yeah, for sure. So we just got to do a rating here.
All right, you guys go with it.
I'm more in line, I think, with Larry's thinking about 7.5. There's nothing overly, it's all good to great on this show, and the new direction has me pretty psyched too. So just the booking choices, wonderful.
I went with a 7. I think if you would have had what we got at Roadblock with the 2, 4-star matches, I would have done 7.5, maybe 8. But we got 1, and then we got the very good Elgin Goto. Everything else was kind of it was nothing bad, just kind of either from the either average to good range or whatever. So it went 3 hours exactly. So it was something that never felt like it drains you. It doesn't feel like, oh my god, I sat here for this 4-hour thing or whatever. I didn't even feel the 3 hours go by when I was watching it. So kudos to them. And kudos to them for keeping the focus on the matches that needed it, and they didn't make the Naito and Yano thing go on forever. They went shorter than Kojima Yano even. So good on them, and now we get to be excited for. I guess they have one Road to show that I know of on the 27th, and then after that we'll see if they show anything else on New Japan World. But yeah. So 2 really good shows we got to watch on a Saturday.
Yeah, definitely. And, it's something that, is kind of nice to have. Usually we have these on Sunday, but a Saturday full of great wrestling, it's solid business. And by the way, if I would have had a rating for the New Japan show, I mean, it obviously would have been an 8 hypothetically. Because Naito's the guy. But anyway, I didn't watch it.
Full point for Naito winning.
Exactly. You got it. You just like Michelle Tanner used to say, you got it, dude. So anyway, we are
been
in a
enjoying
Fuller
that
House.
Fuller House, Gary?
I am a little bit, And then Kimmy Gibbler's back, baby. So here we go, guys. We are finishing out this thing, but before we do, we just want to let you guys know we appreciate you checking us out tonight. Of course, you can find us on the W2M network. If you haven't already been there and you're not already subscribed, go do that. It's very cool to do because there's lots of other shows doing the same thing we're doing. Plus, there's other things besides wrestling on there, like, hey, football to the max. This is all about NFL football and college football sprinkled in there as well. We also have other podcasts that are wrestling provided, like, the Running Wild podcast, TWNE After Dark, which Steven Randall did a podcast before we did covering, this whole show.
And
so
he lives
there you
in
go.
Canada, so
Yeah,
he can tell you
does.
everything about being native with that crowd.
Exactly. So definitely go check that show out. If you're listening to us, we definitely want you to go check out TWNE After Dark. It is going to be a fun time for you. Plus, hey, we do video games on this show as well. We have Video Games to the Max, and of course, Randy Isabel's Backlog Busting Project. That's a fun show to go check out. All old video games, different things. And of course, we have some, I'm trying to make sure I don't miss anybody. Sean, am I missing anybody right now thinking about this? Don't think so. I think we got them all.
Oh, well, the Wrestling and Rap guys,
Oh, Wrestling and Rap. Duh, can't forget about it. Harry.
Make sure you listen.
Yeah,
if you're listening on Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, around there, listen to Harry, Patrick, and I talk about what is considered by many the best WrestleMania ever, that WrestleMania 17 from Houston, Texas, 2001, April 1st, 2001. You aren't going to want to miss it. If not, of course, it's available on demand in all the same places. So, you can check it out either way. And sorry, Gary. I really do want to say thank you to everybody that there's the crossover from this show to that show, and really supports them and tells them all the. I really appreciate it when I see a lot of you guys. The Christopher Hales and Fonties and few of you others that go out of your way to tell Patrick or Harry how much you enjoy it, because that brings a smile to my face that they know straight from the heart that there's people listening and that care.
Definitely, those guys definitely deserve it. And I apologize for maybe blanking on them. I'm going to blame Harry Broadhurst for that one, because he forgot about Phil Collins, apparently, not knowing who he is or whatever. Listening to his music, shame on him.
Yes, that was the thing that we had to go through.
Shame.
Yeah, he did not, because we did WrestleMania 1, so the intro to WrestleMania 1 is an instrumental of Easy Lover, and I did the same thing at the beginning of the show. I played Easy Lover, and he's like, I guess I'm the only guy that has no idea who Phil Collins is or Easy Lover, and Patrick and I were like, what? You don't know about Easy Lover? Okay.
Yeah, I was highly offended, but that's okay, Harry. We'll mend these things up. We'll become buddies again.
Speaking of mending, he is on the mend himself after surgery. Good. So
great. All our hopes, wishes, and prayers are with Harry for sure, and hope he gets better very soon. Well, guys, that pretty much is the W2M Network rundown. Plus, hey, you can check us out on iTunes, and you can also, while you're over at iTunes, you can rate and review for us. That'd be great. 5 stars is what we'd love. And, of course, leave a comment. Tell us what you think about these shows. We'd love to hear from you guys. Besides that, we've pretty much covered the gauntlet of everything we like to cover. Don't forget, next Thursday, we do a Wrestling to the Max live. It is late, but guess what? If you're up, come listen to us live, and that is on Spreaker.com if you want to hear us live. If not, come check us out on demand on the W2M Network or iTunes or anywhere else you can find podcasts. We're going to be available for you right there. But, we're going to have to get out of here now, guys. It's getting pretty late. We spring forward, so it's time for us to probably go spring into a bed near us. So we hope you guys have a great night, and we will be back Thursday, like I said. So always remember, if you're not living life to the max,
not living life at all.
You know it.
Peace.
Later.